What's going on, guys? Today we have a special guest. He's a Grammy Award-winning mixing and recording engineer. He's worked with everyone from Tank and the Bangers, Faith Evans, to BB and CeCe Winans, which he did win the Grammy for. Now, on the other side of things, he's worked with artists like Gucci Mane, Lil Boosie, and Future, and the list goes on and on and on across both genres. And that's what we're going to look at today, mixing the hard with the soft. We're going to take a look at mixing some heavy, hard-hitting 808s and kicks, and mixing that with some delicate and smooth R&B vocals. So without further ado, live from ATL, Atlanta, Georgia, ladies and gentlemen, Kori Anders. Kori, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. The track we're going to get into today is by a super talented artist. Her name is Mjesty. She's most well known for writing Rihanna's Pon the Replay. And the track, I have to say, is the blend between the hard and the soft. You have the hard drums, those hard-hitting 808s and kicks, and then you have Mjesty's beautiful vocals coming in there and just punching right out on top of all of that. So let's get into that session. And if you can, start us off with a little sample of what we're about to hear.
Take me to the moon. Usually I'm afraid to fly, but now that I'm with you, I feel so alive. You make my heart go pitter-patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you. Give a cigarette to my cancer, running through me, give it to me like a dancer. Speed it up, go Lancer. Throw your fist to the sky, Black Panther. Remember when you said that you would save me? Straight jacket if you ever try to play me.
Sounded phenomenal, Kori. Now, what I want to do, let's start off with the hard. Those 808s and those kicks, very, very hip-hop sounding. But this is not a hip-hop track.
I think more and more people are attracted to having a good balance between that hard and that soft. And I think when you combine the two, I think that really intrigues and is really pleasing to a lot of people.
Do the approaches differ?
Not really. The only thing that differs really with the approach is just obviously keeping in mind with the gospel song, I don't need a hard 808 to stomp over it. But with that said, there's still drums and there's still rhythm in a lot of gospel songs. So you still want to have it kind of moving because, it's still upbeat music.
All right. So let's get to the hard then. Take us into the 808s of this track now and the whole process and your philosophy on mixing drums.
Okay, so for me, with mixing drums and 808s in particular, I use a step-up approach. And what I mean by that is that I'll gradually mold the sound with different plugins, different settings within different plugins to ultimately get to where I want to be. I'm not a big fan of just using one plugin and just working the hell out of one plugin. I like to use multiple plugins just to cherry pick the features within individual plugins to make it give me the sound that I want to get.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'm gonna solo the 808 in this record, and I already bypassed all the plugins just so y'all can hear the raw 808. Okay, so it's not, so you hear it. It's almost like a sine wave. So it's not a whole lot of punch, not a whole lot of body to it. So off the top, I know that I want to add a little more body, a little more growl to it, if you will. And so the first thing that I'll do is I'll go in and I'll use the SSL plugin and just add a bit of compression, some basic EQing where I'm boosting about 200 hertz, about 250, somewhere in that ballpark, and actually rolling off 20 hertz. So I'm rolling off that low bottom, that muddy, and this is what you get with that first step. So that's it, bypassed. So you hear the gradual step up, like it just made it a little bit fuller, controlled the dynamics a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the next thing that I do is I use R-Bass. And what I do is I go and I figure out what the key of the song is, and I correlate that key to, the root note based on the frequency within the bass. And so for this particular song, there's two different frequencies, and I use different octaves. So the bottom octave that I want to use is 65 hertz, which represents the bass note for the particular key of this song. And what I'll do is for this one, because I wanted to add a little more body to it first and a little more detail in it, I'll go one octave up with the R bass, and that gives me 130 hertz. So if I just play it without it, I'll add it in as it's playing. So you see it's adding some more texture, adding some more definition to it.
Yeah, a little more body.
And then now I need to get that low end in there. And so what I'll do is I'll add another R bass right after the previous R bass that I added. And this time I'll go down an octave and go down to 65 hertz, which gives me that low rumble. And typically what I do when I start with R basses, I start with the intensity all the way down and I bring it up as I go just to be able to hear it come in. So I'll do that with this. Yep.
Right there.
So you find that little sweet spot within that 808 just to add some body. Then the next thing that I do, well, typically I'll do 808s. I usually bus my 808s and my kick drums to the same bus just because ultimately I want them to blend and work together to create the full low end sound for a particular song. And so I'll go to my kick drum next before I actually go and tweak the settings on the bus. So let's do that. And the kick drum, it's the same approach. I start off with SSL, and this is giving me an overall control of it. Some dynamics, obviously some compression, some gating, and some EQing. So let's go ahead and hear what this kick drum sounds like dry. Okay, so now I see, I'm listening and I know I need to add a little bit more body to that kick, some more punch, just give it some more life. And so here's what it sounds like with the SSL that I put on. And off the top, you already hear it's coming to life. It's getting a little more punch, getting a little more pep in the step, if you will. And then I want to add a little bit of body, a little bit more body to it. So I'll go back to my famed R bass and I'll hit it ironically at the same frequency that I'm hitting the 808, which is that 130 hertz. And this one becomes a balancing act between, because obviously you're attacking the same frequencies on two sounds, so you don't want them to clash. So now it's just about using that to complement based on that frequency. So it's just it just allows me to add some body to it without making it muddy. So it added a little bit of body to it. And then if I solo with the 808 in there, you can hear how the two are gelling, where I'm not overdoing it at 130 hertz on either of them, but I'm adding just enough that they complement each other and give me the feel that I want as far as the 808s and the kicks. And then the final step in the process is I go to my 808, I call it my 808s bus, but it's 808s and kicks. And I start off with the J37 just to add a little bit of tape saturation to it. And this, just to give me, I came up in the analog world using, analog consoles. So trying to emulate and trying to get as much of an analog feel in the digital realm as possible, I just run it through it, and it just adds a little bit of texture to the overall signal. So I add that in. So you hear the texture that it's adding to that. And then what I do is I'll go back, and now it's just fine tuning different frequencies, different harmonic octaves within that note for the low end. And that's just boosting at the different octaves within it. So if I mute that, a little bit more body to it. Now, ultimately, the sound is pretty much there. The last step in the equation is I go to my NLS, And what this does, it's almost like another saturator, but it's giving me all the body that I need, and it's giving me the ultimate feel that I want in this low end. So you'll definitely hear the difference when I A/B it. And that's how I do 808s and kicks.
Let's get into something more soft now, and that's, of course, the beautiful, delicate vocals of Majesty. Can you take us into that?
All right, so starting off with Majesty's lead vocal, I obviously go through and listen to it dry, and I'll play it dry just so you all can hear it, without anything on it.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you.
So off the top, you hear a lot of the nasally frequencies in it. You hear a lot of sibilant frequencies in it.
Definitely.
It's not as pretty as it can be. And so what I typically start off with is a de-esser just to start taming some of those sibilant frequencies.
Okay.
So if I go to my de-esser.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing.
So you can see it's a gradual thing. I'm attenuating, roughly 4,200 hertz, or 4K. And it's a gradual process with me. So then after I de-ess, I go to my R compressor and just controlling some of the dynamics of her vocal. Not going overkill because you don't want to take away the feel of it, but just
you make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh.
And after I do mess with the R compressor to get some overall control of the vocal, then I'll go in and use R Vox right after it just to add some body and some some presence to her vocal.
Okay.
So let's go through.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing.
And then I go into correct mode. So a lot of times this is like the surgical part of EQing and mixing vocals. Is for this one, I pull up my Q6, and y'all can already see there's a bunch of
what's going on there?
And a lot of these are just notching out for this particular vocal in this particular recording. The microphone was just really picking up these particular frequencies, which were, if I go to it, you're looking at almost 12K, 6K, just notching out those very, very narrow bandwidths just to make the vocal smoother without sounding like razor blades cutting your eardrums.
Right.
And let's bypass that just so you can hear the difference.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you.
And right there, it sounds like it's muffled it a lot, but it's cleared up those razor blades that are hitting my ears.
Right.
And so then after that, I think I added another one. Oh yeah, this one was a lot of surgery to it. Just still trying to hit those frequencies that were affecting my ears. So
you make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you.
So if you just listen to that, it actually makes the vocal sound dull. And the beauty of mixing and the process is that you go through and you can make it sound dull, and then you can start bringing back certain elements that you need to bring out. And so I'd rather be able to draw a bunch of things back and just bring out certain things that will come back and make the overall vocal sound good. So the next step in the process is I'll go to my vocal aux track for her lead. And of course, there goes that J37 again.
Okay.
Just adding some tape saturation to it. I think that was automated. So
you make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at.
It's just adding a little bit of body to a vocal.
Okay.
And for the heavy lifting on vocals, I'll use the SSL Waves plugin.
You make my heart go pitter.
A lot of it.
You make my heart go pitter.
A lot of EQing, a lot of compression, and even gates and stuff. So
you make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you.
in this particular setup, I rolled off quite a bit of the low end, and that got rid of some of the nasally muffled sound that you're hearing, and I also boosted some of the high end right at 8K, cut out some of the high mids, some of the low mids, and filtered out pretty much anything below 300 hertz. And overall, that allowed me to get her vocal to a place of sitting where I needed it to sit. And it sounds a little bit thin, but a lot of that is me keeping in mind that there's a lot of things that are low in registers that she doesn't need to have those low frequencies there that will cloud up the overall mix.
Okay.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside.
And to me, that vocal still sounds a little essy and a little harsh. So then I'll throw another de-esser on the chain, but instead this time I'm right at about 65K or 6.5K.
Okay.
And
you make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room.
And it's hardly hitting it, but it's just giving me enough control over those piercing frequencies that is now making it smoother.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you.
Wow, okay. It's
So
just
that
got
essentially
super clean.
Yeah, that essentially gives me the overall vocal sound, and everything is, as they say, adding sauce to it, the reverb and the delay and all that stuff.
Right.
All this stuff. Another thing that I do use on all vocals is a combination of C4, which is a multi-band compressor. Just overall, just getting, multiple bands at the same time. And it's real subtle to what it does, but it gives me a little more control.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you.
And then I ended out with the NLS, which the whole reason why I like to use the NLS, because it's like a summing amp within, Pro Tools. And so for me, coming from mixing on an actual SSL to just being all in the box, this allows me to give me that same summing amp feel.
Okay.
You make my heart go pitter patter when you step inside the room. I'm on air and can't stop staring at that oh so amazing you. You're the cigarette to my cancer, running through me, give it to me like a dancer.
Yeah, so that's the overall, vocal process for her vocals, and typically that's usually my process for mixing most vocals.
Yeah, that's the best of both worlds right there. I want to show you. I went on your Instagram, and I want you to tell me what's going on in this picture.
Yeah, so a lot of, one thing about Atlanta is that we have a pretty close-knit music community. And that particular event was a networking event where it was almost like speed dating, but it was inviting people that were, up and coming, aspiring artists, producers, songwriters, engineers to come and sit down with all of us. I think in that picture you saw Leslie Brathwaite.
Yeah, he's down there. Yep.
Yeah, Sean Garrett, a whole host of well respected people in the music game.
There's a lot of talent in that picture.
Yeah, it's a lot of talent, which is cool. We all still come together and we believe in helping those that are coming after us, just because that's always been the cool thing about Atlanta, is that we want to help the next people coming up to help them do better. So that in that particular picture, it was that event that we were doing at. It was like a round table of, mentorship, if you will.
Yeah, Leslie Brathwaite is another beast from ATL.
Absolutely. And, the funny thing, me and Leslie go way back. That's essentially how I discovered audio engineering.
All right, Kori, I want to let you get back to mixing. I know you got a ton of artists to mix for. You must have, like 20 tracks standing by?
Yeah.
What's on deck?
Right now, I actually just got hit by another artist for Zaytoven. So doing that, we just did like 3 more banner podcasts like yesterday. That's why I ended up having to push things back, because there was just so much going on that I just couldn't do it. So between that and then a couple other artists that I can't name just yet, but yeah, we're working.
All right. I want to let you get back to that. And the track is called Take Me to the Moon by Mjesty. It's from her new album called 3. Check that out on Spotify. And to keep up with the latest from Kori, check out his website at IamKoriAnders.com. Or you can visit his Instagram. He's KTibbs31. And you can also catch him on the David Banner podcast. Thank you so much
David, I appreciate you, Waves. I appreciate y'all. I just want to say goodbye to everybody. I hope this helps with y'all's mixing moving forward.
You make my heart go pit-a-pat.